This essay is entitled Flint on the Brink: How Broken Systems, Billion-Dollar Saviors, and the Flint-first leadership are fighting for the city's future. Inside an American Rust Belt city where economic collapse, segregation, and private philanthropy now compete with local leaders over who gets to decide what comes next. The first piece in this Substack examined how broken systems, economic decline, and racial segregation have battered Flint's economy and its ability to govern itself and plan for the future. Flint is literally an American city on the brink, and its story mirrors that of many communities across the country, especially in the industrial Midwest. But there is another powerful force in Flint's story: the outside role of Flint's philanthropy and outside saviors, and the open question of whether the city can instead build a future led by Flint-first leadership. No honest account of recent Flint history can ignore the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation and the city's larger philanthropic ecosystem. For decades, philanthropy has poured enormous sums of money into Flint. Some of that giving has undeniably funded important programs, institutions, and physical improvements. But the pattern has also encouraged an unhealthy dependence on a single paternalistic funder to drive economic development and even basic city functions. At times, foundation money has been used for the day-to-day operations of core services like police and fire. That is not how normal local government functions. When grants cover what taxes and sound budgeting should be, they can mask structural problems instead of forcing the hard choices and reforms that elected leaders are supposed to make. Local officials get used to asking, "What will the foundation pay for?" instead of asking, "What are our priorities and how will we fund them?" Residents get the message that the real decisions are being made in a boardroom, not a council chamber. AutoWorld is the enduring cautionary tale. In pursuit of an auto-themed tourist attraction, the community demolished the IMA Auditorium, one of its most revered venues, and invested millions of public and philanthropic dollars in a short-lived amusement park premised on the idea that Flint could become a tourism destination. When AutoWorld failed, the surrounding structures were demolished, and the land, some of the most valuable in the city, was given to the University of Michigan. The land was taken off the tax rolls forever by transferring it to tax-exempt institutions. Decades later, the University of Michigan Flint has struggled to draw a substantial student body to downtown. Two major developments in the heart of the city, AutoWorld and the downtown campus build-out, failed to live up to their promises. None of this would have happened without the studies, the money, and the urging of well-intentioned philanthropic leadership. Charitable foundations can play a role in supporting economic development and addressing social challenges, but they should not be expected to drive economic transformation single-handedly. When a community becomes accustomed to waiting for the next big grant instead of developing its own capacity to plan, prioritize, and say no to bad ideas, it loses both skill and self-respect. A giving hand is wonderful. It's no substitute for self-reliance, and a course charted by accountable, selected leadership. For all its wounds, Flint still has real strengths. There's a strong sense of community, with many residents deeply committed to the city's future. Flint's cost of living is lower than in many other places, which should be an advantage for families, students, and entrepreneurs. If paired with safety and opportunity, the city has notable cultural institutions: the Flint Institute of Arts, the Flint Institute of Music, and the ever-lively Farmers Market that provided identity and quality of life. The Flint River Trail and nearby parks offer outdoor beauty and recreation. Educational institutions like the University of Michigan Flint and Kettering University bring teaching and research capacity. even as they face enrollment pressures. Bishop International Airport connects the region to the wider world, generates jobs, and underpins business and tourism. These assets by themselves do not automatically produce transformation. They have to be consciously woven into a coherent, realistic vision of what Flint wants to be in the next generation. That vision will only be credible if it's led by people answerable to Flint residents, not to Lansing, not to the foundation board, and not to nostalgic dreams of a factory town that no longer exists. Flint cannot afford to continue hoping outsiders will save the city or fund its dreams. Money from the state, federal government, and philanthropy can help repair damage and support good plans. But self-confidence and civics confidence cannot be granted from outside. They grow when local people see that their votes matter, their leaders level with them about hard choices, and their city actually follows through on a few key priorities instead of chasing every big idea that comes with a check attached. The task ahead is not to wish for the return of a vanished industrial past, but to choose leaders and become leaders willing to confront the truths that the city is smaller and poorer than it once was, and that segregation is everyone's problem, that overbuilt infrastructure must be right-sized, that no foundation can substitute for public accountability. If Flint can name those realities and still imagine a future worth fighting for, it can become something new on its own terms. All successful urban communities eventually arrive at an inspiring collective vision of who and what they want to be for the next generation. Flint has had the history, the grit, and the raw material. The question is whether it will finally insist on Flint-first leadership to turn those ingredients into a future it chooses rather than one that happens to it. Thank you for joining us. This is the Mitten Channel. It's been my pleasure to read this essay. We ask that you consider subscribing to our Substack, and you can link that here, to follow our Facebook page, and to otherwise go to our website where we have a whole archive of interesting podcasts which talk about all aspects of life in the Midwest and the Rust Belt, and in particular Flint as an example. We hope you'll join us soon in the future. Thank you again for all of your help, and we would appreciate you considering supporting us by subscribing to our channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.